And for the rate of return, on the 401k, I gave it a mean of 7 and a standard deviation of 3, just for as an example. And I ran it many, many times, and then I get these estimates over here, and I can see that. Let's look at. This is the. Which one's it? Okay, so this is the monthly income you need for retirement. And so I get this estimate, but this also gives me the uncertainty based on the uncertainties I gave it in the Monte Carlo simulation.
What does that green thing to the right?
This is the final distribution of 10,000 random runs, varying these inputs using these random functions.
Why does it tail off like that? What is that?
This one here?
What's the x-axis?
So, okay, if you look at these random inputs, I set these distributions manually. I said, this varies, I don't know, I think it's going to vary by this distribution. I think rate of return on 401ks, I don't think it's going to be the 15%. We've always seen, I think it's going to be 7%. And I gave a standard deviation of 3, so that's pretty conservative estimate. What's historical on rate of return?
The question is, what's the green forms on the right?
Right, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
So that the rate of return on average is what, about 10, or I've seen anywhere from 10 to 14%?
7 or 8 is kind of a normal mutual fund.
That's more realistic, yes.
Yeah,
That's
their assuming.
Okay, so I let these vary. Now what I end up with over here are, this is the histogram of 10,000 random runs, letting these vary based on my model. So even though I am at this red line, this red dashed line here is at 10,000, this distribution is the uncertainty. So it could be as low as 7,500 and it could be as high as 17,000.
Okay, but it tails off again.
It's turned sideways.
It's a histogram sideways. That's all.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
This is the dollar amount
Look
here,
at 9 degrees.
and then this is the probability
I see.
distribution.
Okay.
It peaks at this value, and then my uncertainties, here they are in 9,600 to whatever that is. But this is a distribution on its side of the uncertainty.
You need a control chart.
So you could take this, what we were just talking with your 401k where they have you, at least where I work, you put it into different stocks and do something like this and have more of a predictive understanding of where you're putting your money and the probability of actually making a profit on it.
If you have a good advisor, that's what they do. I haven't seen any that do
Use this
that.
to sort of have your own information and not just depend on someone else.
Right, you can do it for free. You don't need an advisor. But what they're good for is telling you what funds to invest in. They do have some good tools. Joe and I, we use the same guy. He's got some pretty good estimating tools, but the uncertainties are not there. It just says, if we assume this is what you have. It doesn't say, if we assume this is going to vary by this much, this is what you're going to have, plus or minus this. With this, I can do that. Okay, and then here's another use for designer experiments. I'll let you read that. If you don't watch Breaking Bad, you won't. If you do, you'll get it. That's all I'm going to say. Or maybe you watch Breaking Bad.
So did you
It's the people who lie.
Yeah, is that
Yeah, yeah.
You made it.
That was at the convention center. One of the conferences at the convention center.
That's a real picture.
Where was it? I mean, where?
This was at the convention center here in Alfred.
Oh.
What was it, last January?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you can take your picture with him. I think it was $10. And I said, can we do a stare down? He goes, oh, that's a great idea. So, for those of you who don't know Gus, he's a really bad guy.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
kills a lot of people.
Yeah, but he does.
For no apparent
Got it
reason.
in the end.
For no apparent reason. So
Yeah, right.
I had to go change my shirt. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I had to go dry the sweat off my forehead after this picture. And he's actually short. He was on his tiptoes trying to get up there. He's not a very tall guy. But on the show, he's very intimidating.
Yeah.
He's actually a very funny guy. All right, and with that, I will close and ask what questions you have. Other than what you want to ask. Can't answer.
Well, let me ask this one. If you use jump, is that pretty complicated to use?
Oh, jump is way easier than mini tab.
All I had to do with jump is I had to,
Once you use a mini tab, it's hard.
And how much does it cost?
we pay about $300 for a mini license at San Diego for a shrink wrap. But you can get a student discount or use.
I could do one.
Well, go to the website.
How much is it though?
I couldn't tell you. For a rate.
I think the commercial's about 1,400.
Yeah.
Oh, about 14.
1,400, yes.
For a license.
Yeah, and then they go discount like down to about 1,000 for like 10, 5 or 10 years.
Oh,
So here's how complicated it is. If you can type this into Excel, you can design this experimental jump, because that's all I did is I typed this stuff in, just like cells in Excel. It created this table for me, and all I had to do was go down here and fill in the risk number as I ran the algorithm. So all I had to do is type in one number, go to the next row, type in another.
but it gave you that another color.
That's part of the design. It's showing me,
It shows you that.
when I said here, create the design and show me the orthogonality of these variables after you create it, that's what it shows me.
And
Did you
that's
tell
what
it
you
to
want.
do 39 runs, or did it tell you it was doing?
There are some things I told it to give me versions. That was, I could have asked for less. I could have just flat out said, I'm only going to do 10. Give me 10. I don't have time to do
Or
30.
why did you choose that? Just,
Because I had time to do 30. It was a default that it gives you.
okay.
Okay, but Don, did you just use one web page estimator? You know, that's you just
Yes.
used one tool. You didn't use multiple tools like you were suggesting.
I could have gone to other web pages and seen if their models give the same result. That would have been
Or
interesting.
you want to combine them all so that you get an average.
You could do that too.
You could use this.
I'd imagine they're all using the same underlying study,
Oh,
and that they would be very close.
No question.
So you set up this model like at Sandia will retire, and then Sandia changes the variables, right? So
Yeah.
they'll up the retirement age, they'll lessen how much money you make, so then you gotta redo it.
Yeah. If they change, yeah, if the formulas change. I don't think in theirs, the only thing that would change are the pension, for example. The 401k stuff is all based on just standard investment math. I don't think that would change.
We could take, if you were trying to build a formula based on real data, the key probably would be to figure out what those variables were, to collect the data points for those, like electrical utility usage. You know, that's what I look at. So we're trying to figure out how much electrical usage we have, you know, number of people in the house, square footage of the house, you know, number of computers. There's 90 million different variables. You have to kind of select those different variables until you find the ones that are relevant or most relevant.
But with that, you would have to use a different tool. You would have to use data mining. You could create a model from that, but your variables are not all orthogonal. For example, with more people in the house, they're going to use more juice. And so you have this correlation between the variables, but you can do different modeling techniques. We won't get into it in this, but I think I gave a talk last year showing houses, for example, modeling house prices using similar techniques. But you could do a stepwise regression where you're looking at, you're pulling only in significant variables, and you're ignoring the ones that don't, and creating your model from those.
But yeah, because just thinking about the example you gave, I could have 10 computers, but if I'm the only one in the house, that 10 computers could be nothing.
Well, that's right, and so you have to do a whole bunch of samples to find out the values that are most relevant, you know, versus I have, you know, a Mennonite family versus a modern family.
Like questions over here.
What would the,
Well, go ahead.
what would the degenerate case look like if I was really an unscrupulous web-page guy, and what I really had was random number generators running and spitting out numbers?
All of
5 or
those-
6 random number generators, you put in your stuff in.
All of these would be flat lines.
Yeah.
There would be no effect.
Do you know of any open source statistical software that does some functionality similar to this?
I don't use anything with jump right now, so I don't know of anything else that does a custom design, which is what I used for this. So I don't know.
there's some really old stuff that was Fortran that was really hard to use. The jump is about the 7th or 8th generation of.
Okay, let's do one or two more questions and then I'll stick around so the rest of you can giggle. I'd like to end at about 8:15.
Hold on. Can we access this on our ASQ?
No, but I'll give you a link where you can access this.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's wrap it up there. I'll stick around if you have any questions later on. You think us up and shoot me an email. And we look forward to seeing you at the next morning meeting too. Oh, great.
Not a question, more of a comment. If you end up buying a copy of Jump, one thing Jump does a really, really good job of is free online training. So they can teach you how to use the tool for different type of analysis.